Okay, let's talk trading, let's talk gaming, and when to hold and when to fold, stuff like that, when to play and when not to play. Um, with trading, you can have what is known as a strategy. Yeah. So a strategy is also known as a trading setup. So when certain things happen, you'll place your trade. Yeah. It's the same with poker. I quite enjoy watching WPT poker. Um, and somebody has to make a decision with two cards. Are they going to play with those cards, or are they going to fold? You know, with poker, somebody has to pay the blind. There's sometimes a big blind and a small blind as well, but the blind is in trading, the equivalent would be, okay, I'm going to have a stop loss. I'm going to risk £100 to make £100, something like that. Okay, so there's quite a lot to it actually, because a lot of people just want to gamble. They want to play every hand they get, and yeah, you'll be playing more games, but when is the good time to play and when is the good time to pass? So that's what we're going to talk about, strategies. And the most important thing with a strategy is it actually has a proven track record. Yeah. Now, what I'm going to say now might not necessarily be popular with some of these scammy gurus. How do they perform? How do they perform? I think a lot of people think, well, if I give some salesman guru who has shown me two or three trades that he won and hasn't shown me all the trades he's lost, then surely I must make money if I give somebody money for a book, or if I give somebody money for a course. Well, I've been there. I've done that. I got the t-shirt. I, in the past, have spent a lot of money on different courses, different books, all of that kind of stuff. And one thing that is doesn't ever cease to amaze me is the fact that when you actually statistically look at people who have been so-called educated by a lot of these scammy gurus, they actually lose a lot more money than people who haven't been educated, which is bizarre. And then you have to think, well, is there a conflict of interest? Are the educators or teachers just encouraging their students to gamble? You know, because the thing with money, people want to make money quickly, easily, hassle-free, trading robot, just let me buy a trading robot for $1,000 or £1,000 or whatever, and let it just print money. Nobody would be working if that was the case. Whether an AI makes your robot or whether you make your robot yourself. I've been there. I've done that. I've got the t-shirt. It doesn't work. Most of those trading robots just curve fit historical data, because ultimately that's all they can do is curve fit old data. So we're going to talk strategy. I mean, is it a wise idea to buy a course? Well, if you look at the statistics, one of the courses I regret buying, I think their brokerage statistic was nearly 90% of their clients lose money. But they don't put that in their adverts, do they? They're not going to say, buy a course from us and you've got a 90% chance of losing money, because their software would only work with their brokerage. But it's a game where a lot of people get screwed over trading, whether it's crypto, whether it's Forex, whether it's the stock market, whatever. A lot of people get screwed over. That is one of the rules of the game. A lot of people will get screwed over by con artists. That is a very expensive lesson to learn. Now, one of the things I teach people is start with a demo account. If you can't prove yourself on a demo account that you can be consistently profitable, and we'll look at what consistently profitable means in a minute. Yeah, if you can't have the self-discipline to place the trades, to work that demo account for a year or so, or until you've proven yourself, then you stand little or no chance. You know, there's a lot of fallacies that these gurus will teach you. Oh, well, you won't, you know, things like, well, you won't be serious unless it's real money. You know, well, you haven't proven yourself. You know? Another thing they'll say is, when you place a trade, just leave it running until it hits the stop loss or the take profit. No, because as the trade plays out, you're gaining more information, you know, and with more information, hopefully you can make a better choice. So a lot of things you get taught by these gurus are wrong. Yeah. Now, you can begin trading by having an entry, having a stop loss, doing your risk management, all of that. Yeah, sure you can. But as you get better, you know, you will, you know, have different things like alerts in MetaTrader 4 or other trading software. You can have alerts when it gets to a certain price. It doesn't mean necessarily you might close the trade, but you might reevaluate the trade. And a lot of the gurus will teach you strategies that are very quick. You know, there used to be these things called binary options. There's two types of binary options, but there used to be this binary option where you literally say up or down in the next 60 seconds. You know, there's still a few adverts on YouTube that promote this binary options. Adverts from many years ago where the brokerage has gone, the company has gone, but the advert stands as the gravestone testimony to the fact that the company failed miserably. So you can actually learn what not to do from a lot of these failed companies. You know, there's a lot to it, but this is a sort of general video of sort of things I've seen over the years that hopefully will just, if you're new to trading, you might avoid some of the pitfalls. So just because, I mean, I've bought the books, I've done the courses, you know, I mean, some basic ideas, even if you follow somebody who was a champion trader, right? What you'll notice with a lot of champion traders, right? One year they're the star of the show, and then the next year they don't even qualify for a trading competition. You know, so if you think that by learning from some guru who charges you a lot of money or was successful is a sure and certain way that you'll make a ton of money and never have to work again, you're delusional. You're delusional. It doesn't work that way. Now, you can get insights from people about what works for them, right? I mean, we're all playing that game. Anyone who teaches is sharing you their insights. So anyway, let's compare trading to poker again. So with poker, you get a couple of cards. You look at the cards, you know, and you think, well, they're useless. You know, I'm just going to fold. With trading, you've got your charts, you've got your news, and you're constantly looking for an opportunity. Now, you can actually use software to give you signals, you know, not that it works, of course, there's no guarantee it works. I don't want to put people off, but I just want to make people have a realistic expectation that if you use signals, some of the trades will lose and some of the trades will win. So you want to back test your signal or your strategy or your process, right? And backtesting is one of those things that no new trader wants to do. They just want to be up and running and making money. They want to get a strategy from YouTube or out of a book or out of a course, and they just want to run with it. And they have faith in a strategy that they haven't even backtested on a demo account, right? And when it comes to backtesting, a lot of these scammy gurus will say, hey, look, the strategy wins 80% of the time. Let's assume it's a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio or something like that, okay? People hold on to this 80%, right, as if it's gold, if it's the absolute gospel truth, and they think, right, well, I'm going to have 80% as well, because I've got the same signals, I've got the same software, I'm using the same brokerage. Surely I'm going to, be successful as the guru. There's copy trading, there's robot trading, there's signals trading, there's all kinds of things that may or may not work. Now, I'm not saying strategies either work or they don't work. I'm not saying, they're rubbish, but you can only gain confidence from something that you've actually proven. It's a bit like, at school, doing chemistry experiments or physics experiments or whatever, or learning anything, learning a sport, whether it's golf or poker or darts or whatever. There is a certain skill set, to it. And with trading, it's pretty easy to do the risk management. You can get software that does that automatically. The charts are there. There's thousands of charts to choose from, different time frames, Forex, crypto, stocks, commodities. There's so many things to trade on. Who's going to win the boxing match? Is it going to be Joshua or Prenger this weekend? Odds are it will be Joshua. That's why we have odds. Even horse racing, there's the odds. Well, this is the favourite. I sometimes watch horse racing. I don't gamble with horse racing or poker, but it's quite interesting to see how often the favourite on the horse race does actually win. Again, it's all down to statistics, probability, and making sure the bookies are profitable. I mean, when a bookie gives you odds of, 6-to-1 or whatever, those odds aren't the real odds. Those are the odds that will make the bookies money, because the bookies have to make money as well, so they're not necessarily going to give you the true odds statistically. It's like a casino. A casino is in the business of making money. Brokers are in the business of making money. Gurus are in the business of making money. I think one of the reasons a lot of these trading gurus keep doing what they do is because the actual trading is very boring. You've got a strategy, you wait until your signal happens, and you place the trade. It wins or it loses. And if you're winning at 55% of the time, let's say, you might do 200 trades and you're not profitable. And then the next 200 trades, you've grown your account 30% or whatever. Okay? So, let's take it from the top. So, the strategy of any game, every game you play, everything that you gamble, there's what is the odds this trade is going to win, or what is the odds a pair of aces is going to win at poker. And there's the gambling element. If you play poker and you only wait until you get 2 aces, a lot of the time you're going to be doing nothing. And if you're doing nothing, you're not making any money. So you might say, okay, if I get a king and an ace, or a queen and an ace, or a jack and an ace, then I'll, the odds of me winning is better than 50-50 kind of thing. So you can wait. I mean, the funny thing with trading and charts, you can wait for the perfect setup. You place the trade, and then some news comes along, and it either helps the trade or you lose. You win or you lose. But you didn't know about that news. So trading is not just charts. There's some people who are just into their technical analysis, you know. But news is more information. And if you're placing trades, you want as much information as possible to make that decision. Why would you ignore the news? Or if you're, if you're one of these traders that just trades the news, why would you ignore, a bit of simple technical analysis to find a good entry position? The thing about trading, there's so many bits of information. There's things like MACD, RSI, stochastics, Fibonacci's. The list goes on and on. There's 101, probably 1,001 tools out there, and 1,001 robots. It really is a forest of too many trees, to pick and choose from. And a classic mistake beginners do is they'll try a tool for 5 trades, so they don't give it enough chance to prove itself, and then they'll say, "Oh, that doesn't work. Let me try another one." It's known as Holy Grail hunting. You're on the hunt for the Holy Grail, and I've done this. I've wasted time on different strategies, different signals, different courses, different books, all of that, because you're looking for just the easy. Just give me something simple. I'm not greedy. Make it win 55% of the time on average, as if a percentage, is the magic answer. But if you have trades that say have a risk reward of 1 to 3 or something like that, not that risk and reward is the thing about risk and reward strategies or fixed R to R type strategies. You are going in on the information at a particular point in time. So then you're ignoring any new information you get after that trade. A lot of beginners, that's where they get stuck. All right, I'm risking 20 pips to make 40 pips. It's a fixed strategy. Let me just go with it. But that doesn't work. It doesn't work. And the gurus will show you 8 out of 10 trades that worked. And now you're convinced that this idea of a fixed risk and reward ratio is the magic way because it does your risk management for you. Trading is so vast. When I got into it in 2011, I really didn't know what I was. That's 15 years ago. 15 years ago. I have actually taken a break for a few years of trading while I've been doing other things, actually. But I thought, why not get back into it? Why not just share my 15 years of experience, call it 10 years of experience maybe, of the things what not to do. Because education, as well as about the things to do, is also the things not to do. It's the same if you're teaching somebody poker. Well, if you've got a 2 and a 7, probably fold. If you've got a pair of kings, probably play. It is a probability game, and the probability is simply how information has played out in the past. It's if you're seeking perfection, you won't find it. You won't find it. You won't find a strategy that wins 100% of the time. And so it can be a frustrating game for a lot of people, which is one of the reasons I think a lot of the gurus they teach, because it is really boring. Poker is really boring. Oh, I've got a pair of queens. Okay, I'll play. And then, WPT, they make it look interesting, but there's not a lot of thinking going on, really. You're playing your hand. You're trying to figure out what other people are up to as well. And then there's the poker face concept where they're pretending that they got a good hand or they're pretending they got a bad hand, so there's all this sort of psychology going on. But ultimately, it's about making money. That's what gaming and gambling is. So if you want to make money, not 100% certain, you should be the bookie. You should be the broker. You should be the educator. Because a lot of these educators, they don't really trade. They don't risk. They're happy to teach you for £1,000 or £10,000 or whatever, but they don't actually place that many trades. Some of the worst of them, they rig their brokerage to turn a demo account into a live account, but it's not a real live account. Or they take the opposite trade as well. So they'll suggest you buy Euro USD, all right, and they'll show you them placing the trade, but they've got a little bit of software that places the opposite trade. So one trade cancels out the other, and they'll only show you the videos of when they've had a winning streak. So a lot of these gurus might have a dozen accounts and they'll only show you when they're winning. That is part of the game. You can call it unethical or devious or whatever, but that is part of the game as well. There are devious people out there that will deceive you and persuade you to give them money, sign up to their signals or their course, and that's how they're making the money, not from trading. And you can prove that by saying, okay, well, show me you've been trading for however many years. Show me your results for a couple of years. They never will. So if you've got a guru who's very evasive about showing you their results, or they only pick and choose what they want to show you, you know they're trying to con you. But they make money and they con you. That is part of the game, however unethical that might be. So trading that's the poker face. The poker face is the guru that you think can trade, but doesn't trade. And I think most of us who've, read books or done courses or whatever, we've come to the same conclusion. You don't get that many people recommend courses, do you? Here's a client, they've been trading with us for the last 10 years. Good luck, unless you pay them to tell a positive story. And that is also part of the game as well. Let's pay some people some money to say how amazing our course is. That's part of the game. So hopefully this is useful to somebody out there. So we've spoken the concept of a strategy and proving a strategy. Otherwise, you're borrowing somebody else's confidence, and you haven't proven it to yourself. So let me just go through these notes, then we'll get on to Excel, and we'll show you some of these sort of concepts that I've been talking about. So a trading setup is when a pattern appears. There was one company, they don't exist anymore. What a surprise. iMarkets Live. And they were pushing their harmonic scanner. Now, a harmonic scanner just uses 2 or 3 Fibonacci's in a row. You got your back pattern, your Gartley pattern, and all of this. And you can. I've bought the books. I've got the books. I've thrown the books away. Well, I didn't throw them away. I gave them to a charity shop. I don't know whether they will help somebody or hinder them, but. Yeah, it's Fibonacci pullbacks is harmonics. It's not very complicated. But because it was mixed in with multi-level marketing, it's like what they would teach people to do in iMarkets Live. It's like, okay, just trade lots of trades. And when you get 4 out of 5 or 8 out of 10, go online and just show people that you're winning. And that will make them believe that you know what you're on about. And then they'll sign up. Sign up to the course. And the gurus just do a more... there were so many of these people, I don't know where they are now. I don't know where they are now, all these trading gurus. This was 2016 when I got scammed. Um, but where are these gurus now? Maybe they've made a bit of money. Maybe they're still conning people, giving people the idea that they can trade. But it's these things to look out for. When somebody shows you 8 out of 10, or they say, look, 80%, this proves beyond a shadow of a doubt they don't know what they're doing. Or this is where you put your stop loss, this is where you put your take profit, fixed trades. Yeah, the market is constantly providing you new information. Yeah, so you might have a good entry. Some people call it, this is the ideal entry. And there's so much more to it than what these gurus teach you. And if what they teach you actually means their clients lose money compared to clients who haven't been educated, statistically, I've looked at the brokers, roughly 60 to 70% of people who just gamble, right, without education, 60 to 70% of them lose money. But one of the most bizarre statistics is typically between 75% and 85% of people who have been educated by these gurus lose money over, let's say, the period of a year or whatever. Isn't that interesting that if you're educated by all these things I've told you to not do, these are the things you shouldn't do. So, I mean, even though somebody who's just gambling will lose money because of the spread, because of being, the spread like on Forex at 10 p.m. They think, oh, the spread's up to 10 pips. Yeah, that's why you got stopped out, because there's nobody trading. These are the things you need to learn. If you're trading Forex for a few pips, you don't want to be around at 10 p.m. UK time because the spreads are crazy, So there is a lot to learn. And a lot of people do quit or give up before they've learned enough lessons to give themselves a chance. It's like most things, to be honest. Most people will quit any form of gaming or gambling or any kind of sort of sport, if you like, before they've given themselves a chance to actually get good at it. Unless they really love running or jumping or cricket or whatever they love to do. But there's what is known as the 4 levels of learning. Yeah, initially you are unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you don't know, and so you're going to fail miserably. Then you become let me remember the second level. So you've got unconscious incompetence, then you've got conscious incompetence. You're aware that you don't know what you're doing, and then you get educated or you start learning things. Then you become what is known as consciously competent, like playing golf. You really have to concentrate. You look at the ball, you go through your setup, you make sure you got your backswing, you're working a strategy, and then in time you reach this level of unconscious competence where you've done the strategy so many times, you know what you're doing. It's natural to you, and somebody looks at you, if you're good at golf, and you make it look so easy. Yeah, but it's years of practice. I like watching snooker, darts, football, things like that. I mean, it's not like somebody like Ronaldo just turned up one day and he's the best, there is, kind of thing, or David Beckham. Think about all the years that they had to put in to get good at one particular thing, football. Just because they're good at football doesn't mean they're good at golf, or they're an expert in placing trades on horses, it can take a lot of effort to get good at one particular game, one particular, um, Forex, or crypto or stocks or commodities or whatever. I know people who are, all they pretty much trade is oil, just one commodity, and they've become good at that one commodity, you know. But put them on a different chart and they don't know what they're doing, you know. So it's almost like with a golf swing, they get the feel, they get the vibes, kind of thing. It's, made a mistake, yeah, it didn't feel right. And you get the feeling um, with playing poker or trading or whatever. So there you go. So let me just go through these notes. So every game you have to make a decision when to play or when to pass. We spoke a little bit about poker. Somebody has to put the blind in. Sometimes there's a big blind and a small blind. Um, but I mean, technically, you could have two people playing poker. Somebody puts the blind in. They've got nothing. The other person's got nothing, or they haven't got their two aces. So you could have two people playing poker, doing nothing, and just waiting for the two aces. So they're not. Their strategy is to do nothing for 99% of the time. It would be pretty boring, wouldn't it? But some people trade that way. I'm only going to trade non-farm payrolls. I'm going to go by the numbers, and well, you'll only get 12 trades a year. That could be you. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. So we're talking about setups. We're talking about. I mean, I will show you this stuff in future videos on charts. So tempted to gamble? Of course you are. Well, it's almost my setup. Why don't I just give it a go? Because I might learn something new. I mean, yesterday I placed a trade, and as the evening wore on, I thought, well, hang on a minute. I'm still in a bit of profit, but it hasn't played out the way I thought it would play out. Therefore, I closed the trade because 10 o'clock's coming up. It's Forex. I look at the chart. I didn't get the profit I wanted to, but it is a profitable trade. And as you look at that particular trade with the information you have, which is more information than 8 hours after I placed the trade, I decided to close that trade. Most gurus will say, oh no, leave it running. No, if you have more information, you can make a decision with more information. So a lot of the things these gurus teach you are wrong, and yet you've given them £10,000 for a course or whatever, and then you think, well, if I do what they say, I must make money. But they're hypocrites. What is worse is when they teach you things that they know will deliberately make you lose money. So they can teach you how to lose money more likely. And then you can sort of learn from that as well. Stay in the trade. Oh, okay, then I won't. Right, and then it's a 50-50 kind of thing. Tempted to cut the trade short? Yes, I would say. As the day goes forwards, you get information, you can see if your decision and the reasons you placed the trade is the same how the market is playing out. I'll say that again slowly. You look at a chart or you look at information and you make a decision, and you can see as the day plays on, does the market, is it thinking the same way you thought? Are you in harmony? Yeah, are you in harmony with the market? And that is years and years of practice. Years and years of practice. I mean, it amazes me that beginners think they can, make 80% strategies There's this guru who's been doing it for decades. Yeah, he's been conning people for decades. And it's made him a lot of money. And there's a lot of them out there. As I said, and I will repeat myself, that's part of the game. Con artists are part of the trading game. That is something you have to factor in, if you want to learn trading. So initially, you might lose a lot of money. You might buy a lot of books that you give away. I mean, I look back to 2011. I really, what got me really into it was the salesy type people. Oh yeah, yeah, look at this person's doubled their account. Oh, I can do it. Oh, it's easy. Anyone can learn it. It's the salesman that persuades you that, yeah, anyone can do this. That's because they're a salesman. That's their job. Their job is to sell you books and courses and get money out of you. They don't tend to follow up on how are you doing with what I taught you, unless they can sell you more courses. So I think we've pretty much covered that. So what else is there? I've spoken about statistics. So when you have gurus that give you software or recommend a particular broker, why don't you look at that broker? If it's a regulated broker, it must give you a percentage of losing clients in the UK anyway. So if you're looking at a large company like IG or CMC and you say, okay, 69% of people lose money, fair enough. But then if you look at the guru's broker, and the guru's broker, 79%, 85% are losing money, you go, well, you're better off not using the guru's broker then, aren't you? And if the guru is promoting a particular broker, they make money from promoting brokers. It's known as IB, an introducing broker. So you introduce a client to the broker and the broker gives you a couple £100 or whatever because you've introduced somebody to the brokerage, and they know most people lose money. So brokers are on the hunt for clients because, a lot of clients, they give trading a go for a few months or whatever, they lose their money and they quit, and they're not going to go back to trading again. Oh, trading, that's where I lost money. I'm not going to try that again. Or maybe try it for free with a demo account, which is another piece of advice. But of course, there's time. People don't want to spend time on a demo account that isn't going to make them money. But again, let's go back to Ronaldo. Ronaldo probably as a young boy was not paid to play football. He had to learn his skills, or David Beckham or whoever. I love football. I'm going to learn football, and the love of the game, if you're good, you're going to get paid a ton of money. It's the sort of little fantasy that most people who get into sports, boxing, I'm going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. That's your sort of little fantasy, isn't it? And why not? Why not have the fantasy? Whether it's reality or not, that's the question. Mindset is very important. Having a positive mindset is very important. Belief and confidence, but not unrealistic confidence. Otherwise you can just dig yourself a hole, lose your money, and it's game over. The only thing that will stop you is when your account is zero. There are people like, I've known people like that, full of confidence, full of belief, they believe in their trade, they won't let it go, and their account goes down to zero. Yeah. So again, even faith and confidence and belief can work against you, if you're determined to go down the wrong path. So as you can see, there is a lot to this game, and most games, whether it's the trading game, poker, football, whatever, there is a lot to it. And so if you're going to choose the trading game, there's a lot to learn. After a week, I mean, some of the worst things that can happen is somebody places 10 trades, right? And 7 out of the 10 win their first 10 trades. Now they think they've mastered it. So they double up what they're gambling and they think, well, you know, I don't know, let's say they're risking 10 quid to make 10 quid. So they've made 70 quid, they've lost 30 quid, they're up 40 quid. And they think, well, this is easy. I've made 40 quid in one day. Let me double what I risk tomorrow and then I'll make 80. And then I'll never have to work again. But 10 trades isn't enough to know what's happening. I am going to get into Excel and show you the nature of sort of random results without a strategy, and then we'll look at sort of random results with a strategy. Okay, so because it's important to understand it visually as well as just me talking. They say a picture paints 1,000 words. So maybe this 41 minutes of me talking can be replaced by 4 minutes on the charts kind of thing. Right, so yeah, if you've got a guru, show me you can trade. If they don't want to show you their results over several years, they're hiding something. As I said, I'll say it the last time, that's part of the game as well. There are a lot of scammers in trading who make a lot of money. And that is their strategy. Their strategy is confidence, a suit, a Maserati or a helicopter, or, you know, walking around a hotel or throwing dollar bills around or bling, you know, and convincing you visually that they know what they're on about. That's their strategy. And you'll notice how they all copy each other. About 10 years ago, they all had the sports car, they all had the gold necklace kind of thing, you know, the Rolex watch, the hotel lifestyle, you know, they were all copying each other. And I wouldn't say fair to them because they conned people, but that strategy of the bling, you know, the rap star, it works. It deceives people. But you're not going to make money. You know, I mean, in some ways, to use another analogy, it's like the cult leader. You know, life is perfect for the cult leader if you do everything what the cult leader tells you to do. But how does your life work out? Not so good. You know, it's amazing how people, they can find their con and they can work their con and it works for them and it makes them money. But everybody else is suffering. Let's talk about the news. Donald Trump, supposedly he scammed $500 million from people in crypto and he's $500 million up. That's his strategy. He's made money, they've lost money. This is the way the world works. That's, if you learn anything from this video, it's watch out, don't get conned. Anyway, let's move on to the charts, shall we? Okay, this is a chart, so maybe the 43 minutes of talk could be replaced with 2 or 3 minutes looking at a chart. So this chart shows you what winning 54.6% of the time. It's random, basically. I'll explain this chart. You start with a certain amount of money, right? And then the next, let me just bring that down a little bit so I can show you the formula. So you randomly win or lose 55% of the time. It's a very simple formula. When you lose 1.5%. When you win 1.5%. This is often where people start with these fixed risk to reward strategies. Yeah, we'll leave those behind in more advanced lessons. But let's say you do 5 trades for 100 days. So you're building up your discipline, right? You've been given a strategy and basically you're proving whether the strategy works or not. Now, this is really good. This is 10,000 into 30,000, right? So that's winning 57.6% of the time with a fixed risk to reward ratio. Very good, because 100 days you've trebled your money. That's fantastic. I don't think anyone would complain at that, would they? Whether it's realistic or not, we'll get into that. Let's do something with more a bit of a journey. So trader A starts trading and they do really well, right? And then they have a bit of a patch where they're really not achieving anything. So if this represents, let's say, a year, half a year, they're not profitable. For half a year, from trade about 180 up to about 430 or whatever, they're working, they're placing their trade, but they're not making any money. They'd be tempted to quit, wouldn't they? Of course they would. But they've got that confidence that they gained. Yeah. So, as I said, trading can be very, very boring. You've got a strategy. Maybe, a lot of people are tempted to use robots. I don't really, the robot is just purely going on information based on the chart. There are new AI robots that sort of tap into the news as well, stuff like that. Again, with the big traders, give me as much information as possible. That allows me to make a best decision as possible, And some of these top traders in the city, they can be on millions and millions, but they too can have a dry patch for 6 months. 6 months they're doing nothing. For the first 6 months they were the star of the show, and then 6 months nothing. It's like football. You can have a few wins and then nothing's really happening. You get a few draws, a few losses. This is the journey. You're going to have a journey of good times, nothing, and bad times. If he considers he got up to 15,000 and down here, he's at 12,000, he's going to be pretty depressed, isn't he? Oh, I've done 2 or 3 months of work and I've only lost money. Stress to perform, things like that. So there you go. That's 2 or 3 minutes of showing you on a chart. And again, let's just go over some of the lessons I actually spoke about. So strategy, right, and overconfidence. So on the way up, this guy's going to be super confident. They'll be tempted to up their risk. Now, imagine they did that up here. They went from 10,000 to 15,000. They thought, oh, I know this. I'm the expert now. It didn't take me years. It just took me 3 or 4 months. And then they double their risk and reward. Well, this downside would have been doubled. So they lost about, 3,000. So they would have been in negative territory, and then they would have probably been very cautious, if not given up. And then they might have reduced their, risk and reward right down. And then when they got their good times again, it because they were maybe very conservative on the risk, then they didn't really make much money, So it can play out any number of ways. Some people do like the fixed risk to reward. I don't have enough statistics to know whether that works better or not. The statistics I have, the gurus that teach the sort of fixed risk to reward strategies, more clients lose money than the people who seem to have no strategy at all. It's a funny one, isn't it? Some people could say, well, the markets are completely random. The markets are completely random. Nobody knows what kind of mood Donald Trump's going to be in when he wakes up. Oil price shoot up or shoot down. It's very stressful times for people, especially my friend who likes to trade oil. It's like, oh, is Donald Trump in a good mood today, is he? Or a bad mood? If he's in a bad mood, right, oil prices will go up, So maybe the market's not as random as people make it out to be. But there's so many factors involved, especially with Forex. With Forex, trillions are traded every day, trillions. Some days busier than others. Some periods of time, nothing's happening. 10 p.m. UK time, it's pretty dead because the banks are closed. So it is what it is. There's a lot to learn. And you either play the game, or you don't play the game. Maybe you think, well, Forex trading, I can't be bothered with that. I'd rather play poker, or I'd rather play darts, But you have to be very good to make money from poker. You have to be how many Luke Littlers are there playing darts? Not that many. There must be millions of people who play darts for fun, but how many people are actually making money out of it? Because with you and the market, it's you and the market, all right? Mr. Market. But if you're playing darts or golf, or I enjoy golf, I'm not very good at it, but I can't ever imagine me becoming a pro golfer, But how many pro golfers are there? Not that many. I remember when I started golf, I bought 6 lessons. I think it was about 40 quid. Shows you how long ago that was. 6 lessons for 40 quid in a group. And I learned the basics. But the thing is, it's a balance, isn't it? If you can get up to 55% consistently over hundreds of trades, that's the biting the market approach. Yeah, you could do well. Some people's strategy, I know different people. It's like, I've bought Rolls Royce shares, one of my friends, and he's, I'm holding on to the Rolls Royce shares, So he likes the stock market, he likes dividends, he likes things like that, That's the way he plays the game. You can play, I mentioned those terrible things called binary options, that got banned. But some people enjoyed playing that game, even though I think it was almost 100% of people who played binary options, the more they play it, the more they lose. Because let's say you got £1,000 and it's a buy or a sell decision. Will it be higher or lower 5 minutes from now? The payback is always less. So you might risk 50 quid to win 40 quid. Always a negative risk to reward ratio on a higher or lower thing. So if it's random, of course you're going to lose money, even if you think you've got a strategy. So this is the game. This is the game of trading. You can play it, you can give it a go, or you can pass. You either hold or you fold. It's like the song, isn't it? Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Was it Kenny someone, I think? But there's a lot of games you can play. You might make money, you might not. There's so many ways people gamble. Tossing a coin, horses, card games, online gambling of all sorts, The people who tend to make the money are the people who own the casino or own the brokerage or are the trading educators. They're playing their game. The game they play is, I'm going to run a casino and make money. I'm going to run a brokerage and make money. Or what was the last one? I'm going to educate people and get people to give me money to teach them. A lot of these gurus, their strategy isn't trading. Their strategy is, how much can I charge people for a course that is a pretty much identical photocopy of every other course out there? That is the game. That is the game. Gurus who, they'll charge you money for stuff that doesn't work or works once in a while. People get strung along by these gurus. I've known people in the past. Oh, I did this course and I did that course and I did the other course. Well, you just like socialising and giving people your money. Fair enough, if you've got money to burn, there's people who will take it from you. You know, I mean, there's these people who go from trading event to trading event, from course to course, from book to book. You know, they're part of a trading society. You know, that they have a sort of snobbish attitude to trading. Oh, I know more things than you. You know, the real question you have to ask yourself is it a game worth playing? And for the people who educate and make money, yes, they're making money. You know, whether it's ethical or not, I think most people would probably say no. Whether owning a casino is ethical or not. You know, once you get into the ethics of it, you know, it is a gamble. You know, you have to walk into playing this game knowing that it's a gamble. You could make money, you could lose money, you'll do both. Yeah. And most people find it boring and they quit because they don't like the idea of working for a month, even if it's only 10 minutes a day placing a trade. What's the point in working for a month and losing money? What's the point in working for 6 months and losing money? And then you stop before your winning streak comes along. And you're always waiting for that winning streak. You know. This is the nature of randomness and chaos. You know, some people, you know, as I said, some people trade oil. You know, they listen to the news, they make their trades. Do they break even? Most people who trade are not successful. They have their moments, but, you know, it's not a job where at the end of the month you get paid, unless you work in the bookies. If you work in the bookies, then you know at the end of the month you're getting paid. That's part of the game. That's a different game. That's the other side. The croupier who deals the poker cards, he gets paid. He might find it as boring as hell. You know, just standing around waiting for somebody to come up to the table to play blackjack with. I think that would be mind-numbingly boring, you know, but you're getting paid. You're getting paid to just stand or sit and wait for somebody to play a game. You know, that's why they put all the razzmatazz, all the sales, all the glitzy adverts. Play our game, make us rich. You know, it is what it is. And imagine a world where there was no games. You know, that would be very boring as well, wouldn't it? No games. You know, no cards, no poker, no trading, no markets. You know, it is what it is. You can hold or you can fold. Yeah, it's up to you. And hopefully some of these lessons are useful. Anyway, that's about an hour. So we are going to look at the charts in some other videos, and we're going to place trades, and I'm going to show you strategies, and you're going to take the strategy and you're going to prove whether it works or not. So I'll show you how to do back testing as well. So there we go.